Despite having Nubia on my shirt, there's barely any black people in this movie. Alright, that's the end of my review. Have a good night. Wonder Woman 1984 is the highly anticipated sequel to the Wonder Woman movie, and this movie is also directed by Patty Jenkins, and it sees the return of Gal Gadot, Chris Pine. You also have Kristen Wiig, the Mandalorian, and Oberyn Martell himself, Pedro Pascal, and this movie comes out both in theaters and on HBO Max on Christmas Day. I wasn't planning on seeing it in theaters, but if you do, that's your business. I would like to thank Warner Brothers Media for giving me special access to an early screener, and before I get into my review, if you could do me a favor and swing that lasso of truth to the like button, it'll really help with this video and my channel in general. And Wonder Woman 1984 sees the return of Gal Gadot as Diana Prince as she lives quietly amongst mortals in the vibrant, sleek 1980s, an era of excess driven by the pursuit of having it all. Though she comes into her full powers, she maintains a low profile by curating ancient artifacts and only performing heroic acts incognito. But soon, Diana will have to muster all of her strength, wisdom, and courage as she finds herself squaring off against Maxwell Lord and the Cheetah, a villainess who possesses superhuman strength and agility. So yeah, as I mentioned, this movie takes place, and the title of this movie is called Wonder Woman 1984, so it takes place in 1984, and the very first Wonder Woman took place in 1918 during World War I. So this movie takes place 66 years after the first Wonder Woman movie. And funny enough, despite my intro of saying there aren't really that many black people in this movie, and yeah, that is a notch against this movie, overall, I really did enjoy this movie. And my enjoyment of this movie came right from the very beginning. Like the very first 10-15 minutes of this movie, like that was the best time I had throughout the entire movie. Like I wished what happened in the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie was the entire movie. I was like, I can see an entire movie of what's happening right here. And of course, I'm not going to say what it is. Spoilers. This is a non-spoiler review. But I was just like, give me more of this. And so just based on those first 10 minutes, I was already deeply invested and excited about what was happening in this movie. And also the thing about this movie, obviously it is a Wonder Woman movie, and so Wonder Woman is the driving force for this movie, and the Wonder Woman is played by Gal Gadot. And I will say that overall, I don't think Gal Gadot is that strong of an actor, and you could kind of see that throughout this movie, but at the same time, I really like her as Wonder Woman and just the character and humanity that she brings to the role. And then also like watching her on screen, she's just gorgeous, and I couldn't help myself while watching, even though I'm like, hey, I'm gay, but every scene I just couldn't help but like look at her and be like, she is so freaking pretty. And then not only that, like, yeah, she might not be the strongest actor. As a matter of fact, I will say out of the entire cast, she's definitely the weakest, but at the same time, the rest of the ensemble is so strong around her that it definitely just by default elevates her performance and makes me really like her as Wonder Woman. And with this movie taking place in the 80s, the thing that I noticed about this movie that's different from the first movie is this movie is way more colorful and vibrant, and it just pops off the screen. And it kind of disappointed me in a little bit because I ended up watching this screener on my laptop as opposed to a big screen because of just the logistics of the screener. But despite that, even on my laptop, I was just captivated by how gorgeous this movie just looked from a filmmaking and cinematography standpoint. And then also with that, like the fashion of this movie was great, and it felt very 80s. And then not only just that, like when you think of 80s movies and just the 80s in general, you think of things being played up for camp, and this movie definitely had that. And I don't say that in a bad way at all. Like this movie was definitely a little campy, but not so campy that it made the movie seem like a comedy more or less. And then also speaking of the ensemble of this movie, like another character like I did mention that does come back is Chris Pine. And spoilers for Wonder Woman 1, but Chris Pine died in the first movie. So the whole time, everybody that saw the trailer, because they did reveal he was back in the trailer, you're wondering, like, how is he back? Like, there was a lot of theories going on, like, is he an illusion? Is he some type of android? Some people said, is he Martian Manhunter pretending to be Steve Trevor, which I thought was a terrible theory, but the theory was out there. And they do explain how he's back. And again, non-spoiler review, I'm not going to bring up how, but my point of bringing up Chris Pine is to say, Chris Pine, Steve Trevor, I love his character and then his interaction and chemistry with Gal Gadot. Like, watching them interact and play off of each other is gold to watch. And that's the thing that really invested me in their relationship, is just their chemistry of working together and playing off of each other. And I feel like their chemistry in this movie was stronger than what they had in Wonder Woman 1. And that's saying something, because I really loved their chemistry in Wonder Woman 1. And then also the thing about this movie is being that he is now in 1984 and he originally was from 1918, and then seeing him play into being 66 years in the future and having to get used to it, like, I really thought they did a good job in playing it. And honestly, they didn't play it too on the nose, which a lot of properties would do, like a fish out of water, and then everything was about him trying to adjust to being in 1984. No, him adjusting to 1984 didn't overtake the movie. And I just really liked the dynamic that he brought to this movie. And I will say, unfortunately, there's no scene like he had in the first Wonder Woman movie where you get to see him shirtless and pretty much naked. You know what scene I'm talking about. This one right here. While there's none of that, I just really loved seeing Chris Pine come back as Steve Trevor. And rounding out the main cast, you have your two villains. You have Barbara Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig, and you have Maxwell Lord, played by, I was about to say Oberyn Martell, but no, Pedro Pascal. And I think they really did a phenomenal job in terms of the performance level that they brought to these villains. And honestly, like, when it was first announced that Kristen Wiig was playing Cheetah, Barbara Minerva, I was kind of hesitant, because I was just like, so are they gonna just turn this role into a straight up comedy? Because that's mostly what you know Kristen Wiig for, playing a bunch of comedies. But no, honestly, her Barbara Minerva was very good. She was very believable in this role, and I really enjoyed watching her. Now, the only thing I was disappointed in is, considering she is the villain, considering she is the Cheetah, one of, if not the most well-known and the arch nemesis of Wonder Woman, I was hoping to get a little bit more from her, and I was hoping to get more backstory or more connection between her and Diana, and you didn't really get that. And part of the problem is, because this movie had two villains, you had the focus going to both of these people instead of the focus being on one villain. And so I feel like it kind of took away from each villain, because you have to focus on both of them, as opposed to introducing them separately as one villain, then maybe bringing them together in another movie. But that has nothing to do with the performances that these two actors brought to it. Like, in terms of the performance, they were bringing their A game. And I think that's really the major problem that I had with this movie. Like, because they had these two villains, like, I feel like the movie wasn't as focused as it could have been. And like I mentioned, Barbara Minerva's Cheetah is Wonder Woman's, one of her greatest villain, really her arch nemesis. And in this movie, I never really felt that. She just felt like just another villain that Wonder Woman had to stop. But she didn't really feel like, say, Lex Luthor is to Superman, or the Joker is to Batman, or the Green Goblin is to Spider-Man. And that's what Cheetah is to Wonder Woman. And then, of course, not only just that, but then Maxwell Lord is a very big villain in the comic books, and they definitely change him up for this movie. But despite liking Pedro Pascal's performance and liking what he did, I didn't really feel the level of threat that you have for the comic book version of Maxwell Lord that you had in this movie. And there was a moment in the third act where I kind of feel like the movie just kind of stopped to kind of almost deliver a message, and that's how she ended up winning the day. I wasn't really that big of a fan of. And once the day was saved, I was just kind of like, that's all it took? I don't really like that. I wanted more from the villains. And speaking of wanting more, when you think of Wonder Woman, she's one of the greatest fighters in all of DC Comics. However, in this movie, honestly, there wasn't really that much action to be had. And that's kind of another disappointment that I had. And I don't want to use the word disappointment because it makes it seem like I didn't like the movie, because I really did enjoy the movie. But at the same time, I did. This is a superhero movie, but it's a superhero movie following, again, the greatest fighter in DC Comics. And I wanted to see more fights, especially between Wonder Woman and Cheetah. And you didn't really get that much. Now, the action scenes that they did have, I did enjoy, but at the same time, nothing quite hit me as much as the no man's land scene in Wonder Woman 1. But I mean, yeah, the action that they had was fun. And honestly, like, it's kind of hard to like figure out which movie did I like better. Did I like Wonder Woman 1 or did I like Wonder Woman 1984 better? Because there are a lot of things in Wonder Woman 2 that I really did enjoy that I feel like they stepped up from Wonder Woman 1, but at the same time, I feel like there was more in terms of the action. I felt like there was more in Wonder Woman 1 that they didn't have in Wonder Woman 2. So I guess depending on the day would depend on which one I think is better. But I would say for right now, because again, nothing really hit me as hard in this movie as the no man's land scene, I would say for now, Wonder Woman 1 I liked slightly better, but it's not by that much. I would say Wonder Woman 2 is still like right here. But with that said though, like there are definitely things that they do in this movie and elements that they introduce to progress the character of Wonder Woman that I definitely feel like they're still going in the right direction with this franchise. And I really can't wait to see the next installment in the Wonder Woman franchise. I can't wait for Wonder Woman 3, and supposedly Patty Jenkins is working on an Amazon spinoff. I definitely can't wait for that. And there's a mid-credit scene that had me smiling, and honestly, I said out loud while watching the movie, oh, I fucking love that. I would still say Wonder Woman 2 or Wonder Woman 1984 is definitely worth streaming. It's definitely worth watching. If you want to go to the theaters to go see it, again, that's your business, but it's definitely worth paying to go see it in the theaters. And I would say Wonder Woman 1984 is a hit. So the question is, are you guys looking forward to seeing Wonder Woman 1984? What are some of your favorite DC heroes? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. And if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.